Another way that we are different as human beings is determined by what we call personality. What is personality? We look at personality as the ways in which an individual reacts to and interacts with others and his or her environment, including during daily events. What is a personality trait? Traits are those that make us different. They are consistent over time in frequency of expression, of enduring characteristics that describe an individual behavior. We could, for example, say somebody is shy. What determines personality? Personality is determined, of course, by both nature and nurture. There's a heredity, a piece to it, and then there is a shaping piece of the environment. Research suggests that aspects of our personalities can change over time, but that rank orderings are stable, meaning that personality is changeable, especially in adolescence, and more stable, and especially among adolescents, but more stable among adults. Still, there are certain traits that are more explicit in one type of person than the other person. And even though we change, that kind of ranking is probably rather stable. The most common and most popular way of looking at personality and understanding personality is the Big Five personality model. Much research supports the argument that these 5 basic dimensions underlie other traits and capture most of the variation of human personality, of our differences. One is the spectrum of extraversion and introversion. The other one is conscientiousness. A third one is agreeableness. Do I tend to agree very easily with others to be nice, or do I stand up for myself and stake out my own claim? Am I open to experience, new experience? Some people are, others are not so much. Am I emotionally stable, or am I easily irritated? These are ways of understanding differences in personality. These Big Five dimensions have been measured over time and are most stable as a way to understand individual differences. They're best measured not just survey-based, but physical observation is preferable. You can actually observe people in the way that they are behaving. There are also survey-based ways, and you're going to do some of these yourself. These personality predictors can be used in different ways by observers, by managers, for example, that can understand how people behave. So it is critical to understand how to assess these differences and where they play in. We've seen Facebook, for example, profile people along those personality dimensions based on the postings that people have, the music taste that people have. And they can be very accurate compared to other self-report measures. There's another indicator that's based on personality differences, which is very popular, and that's why I'm sharing this with you. It's not necessarily very accurate as much as more modern ones, but the Myers-Briggs type indicator is another way of understanding individual differences in personality. It also has an extraversion, introversion component to it. Then it is categorizing people that are intuitive versus sensing. Do they make intuitive leaps, or do they use data, physical data? Are they thinking, or are they feeling themselves into an understanding of the world? Are they judging versus perceiving? And in some way, this is another way of simply understanding how we are different as people. This measure, the Myers-Briggs type indicator that you might also recognize from your work experience or other types of classes, is increasingly questionable in terms of the validity. So I just mention it here as another way of understanding personality differences. Now, what do we know how certain personality types interact with certain situations? Oftentimes, we think personality is very stable and this is the person, this is how he or she is, without understanding the context in which she or he is acting. Many aspects of personality are actually quite flexible across situations. For example, home, work, school, the people that we're surrounded by. You might yourself think about how you are potentially extroverted with your siblings and dominant with one group, and then maybe differently shy or subservient in another group. So it's not like you are fixed as this one type person, but there are certain categories that probably play more with one person than another. The situation, however, can be more powerful in determining our behavior than our natural dispositions. So that most of the personality seems to be consistent in responses that are similar in similar situations, rather than consistent responses across different situations. And this is very important for management to understand, that even though, for example, one person could be shy and in one context, if they create a different context, people could actually step out of that, and personality does not doom the person. There is learning, there is flexibility in that concept. Now, what have we found out in terms of personality implications at work? Conscientiousness is the strongest predictor of job performance. So whether you're willing to do the work that you say you're doing and that you're doing it well. This seems rather obvious. Another concept that is helpful in understanding personality differences and how they play out is that not every personality fits in every job, and not every personality fits in every organization. So there's a concept of personality job fit, personality organization fit. You could think about what personality profile would predict best fit with, for example, a customer service role. Is this an introverted person? Is it an extroverted person? Is it a person that is using data or intuitive judgment? Is it a person that's conscientious or not so conscientious? You could think about that in terms of an industry that's marked by a lot of change, or a career in auditing or the field of law, a researcher, a scientist, a police officer. There are in many ways different types of personalities that fit different jobs and careers differently. I don't want to overplay the role of personality differences, but there are some that we see, and the role of extroversion is in some way clear, conscientiousness the same way, and openness to experience. We will see another little video about the role of extroversion, because there is a problem in the current cultural narrative that sees leaders and managers oftentimes as these gregarious, extroverted people. Oftentimes, that is quite the contrary. The most effective leaders can be introverts. So I'm speaking to all of you introverts out there that oftentimes feel threatened by these personality assessments. And I know in other classes that I'm teaching that is quite often the case, that people think they cannot be a leader because they're not extroverted. We'll hold on to that thought for a bit, and then have those conversations in live session as well.